He is a real piece of work. On days when sales drop, I punish him by skipping his meals. My brother's wife forced my father to do a work from dawn till dusk, and even she skips his meals as punishment. Listening to all this with a goofy smile is my brother. Poor father. I'll take him in. I'll be relieved to get rid of that deadbeat. Then our family's life with my father begins. Turns out, he is actually a good luck charm. My name is Emily. I'm a 33-year-old part-time housewife with a husband and a daughter in preschool. My husband recently took over his dad's business, running a noodle shop. Ever since he was a kid, he admired the way his dad worked, his eyes sparkling. His father, up early preparing, sweating while serving steaming hot noodles. To a young boy, he was more of an idol than any superhero or soccer star. I mean, when my dad twirled those boiled noodles, the steam dancing around him, he was definitely waltzing with the noodle goddess. My husband once said. I wondered if he was a bit crazy when he said that. But as soon as we started dating, I saw it the moment I tasted his father's noodles. The image of him dancing with the noodle goddess. We were a bit of an odd couple, and we got married in our mid-20s. A few years later, we were blessed with a daughter. Looking back, that was probably the happiest time of our lives. Right after our daughter was born, my father-in-law passed away. Having already lost his mother, the depth of my husband's grief was immeasurable. When he even considered closing the shop, it was the employees and regulars who reached out to him. You're the only one who can take over after Dad, having trained under him for over 10 years. We want that flavor to last forever. You're the only one who can do it. Hearing this, my husband was inspired. Dad, watch over me from the other side, he declared as he stood up to the challenge. But of course, it wasn't all smooth sailing from the start, and he faced many challenges. Even if he got the taste right, customers would compare him to his predecessor. In other words, he had to surpass his father to truly be acknowledged for inheriting the original flavor. Since taking over, the business wasn't doing as well, and my husband was constantly worried. To make matters worse, after losing his father, now my mother passed away. I didn't want to leave my grieving dad alone, but living an hour's drive away made it hard to visit him often. Worrying about this, my brother offered to move in with him. I was happy, but it was complicated. My brother has always been somewhat irresponsible. After all, he just likes to be a couch potato. And there's another person I'm worried about. His wife, called Samantha. Your husband only finished middle school? Unbelievable, she said nonchalantly to us, a married couple, when we first met. Part-time? Can't be a full-time housewife, huh? As a woman, that's a loss, she said, looking down on me. And then, my brother and his wife didn't even attend our mother's funeral. Apparently, my brother quit his salaried job and started running a cafe, claiming he was too busy. When did you even study cafe management? I asked. He casually replied, I used to skip work to go to cafes. They were so fun, I thought I might as well start my own, leaving me dumbfounded. Since living with my father, they've even got him helping out in the cafe. And without pay. What about your wife, Samantha? Shouldn't she be the first to help? I don't work. A man's job is to support his wife. Why on earth is my brother supporting such a person? Then, one day, we decided to visit my family home on a rare day off. Though we'd informed my brother in advance, when we arrived, only Samantha was there. Hi, Samantha. Long time no see. Yeah, hi. Just make yourself at home. I'm going to watch TV. As usual, she hasn't changed a bit. Where's my brother? He suddenly decided to open the cafe today because of a sales slump this month. Oh, I see. I was taken aback by the situation. Well, I prefer it when he's not around. It's more comfortable for me. My brother's sudden work commitment was surprising, but even more so was my sister-in-law's attitude. Saying she's better off without her own husband, especially in front of his sister? Classic her. As I entered the living room, thinking how she never changes. I found it empty. Could my dad be in his study? I knocked on his door. But there was no answer. I cautiously opened the door and peeked inside. What? I was at a loss for words. What used to be my father's study was gone. Instead, there was a room painted in an overwhelmingly toxic pink. So pink, it was blinding. My eyes are hurting, but what's with this pink? Samantha. Dad's study has been weirdly changed. Could it be that Dad has developed dementia? In a panic, I called out to my sister-in-law in the living room. However, Samantha was just lounging on the sofa, watching TV, completely unfazed. "Ah, it's fine, it's fine. That's my room now," she said nonchalantly. Wait, wasn't that Dad's study? It was just a waste of space. Books are useless, you can't eat them. You took it over? And I turned it into my room. Cute, right, a pink room? I kept quiet about her sense of style, but I couldn't stay silent about my father. Don't you have a room with my brother? Sure, I took the biggest one. But I wanted a room just for me. So, my old room is. It's a storage room now. A storage room? Yeah, I keep my collection there, stuff I've been gathering since I was single. What in the world? I hastily opened my old room and... Wow, more blinding pink. How much does she love pink? Mom, that's a lot of pink. My daughter exclaimed, her eyes wide with surprise as she looked into the room. Even for a little girl who typically adores pink, this was just too overwhelming. That's how excessively pink my old room had become. There were mountains of cardboard boxes almost reaching the ceiling. And an overflow of pink items filled every corner of the room. I couldn't help but wonder if the floor could withstand all that. But my current concern was something other than the excessive pink. I hurried back to the living room and confronted Samantha, who was comfortably sitting with a pink cushion. Where's Dad's room? Dad's study and my old room had been taken over by pink, and the large room was now my brother and Samantha's. This house, excluding the living kitchen, only has 3 rooms. They were once my parents' room, my brother's room, and mine. After my brother moved out, it became Dad's room. Where in the world was my father sleeping now? I had thought he might have turned the study into his bedroom. To my astonishment, Samantha casually replied, "He's been sleeping on this sofa," as she nonchalantly dropped crumbs from her cookie onto it. What? Stunned, I was at a loss for words, and then I heard commotion at the front door. Going there, I saw my father, looking pale, being supported by my brother. "Dad, what's going on?" I asked, supporting my father as he seemed about to collapse. But my brother just shrugged lightly and said, "He fainted while helping out at the shop," as if it wasn't a big deal. Fainted? Did you take him to the hospital? It's too much hassle. What? Hospitals are just a waste of money. Anyway, if you're free, can you help out at the shop? Help you? No way, you good for nothing. Make your wife work first. After yelling at him, I quickly took my father to the hospital. Returning home, I confronted my brother and his wife. The doctor said it's overwork. How much did you make Dad work? Yes, overwork was the reason my father had collapsed. Now he was lying on the sofa, making me realize he truly didn't have a proper bed. Contrasting with my red face and anger, my brother and his wife continued to be nonchalant. How much? It's no big deal. He just gets up at 3 a.m. for opening prep, then handles customers when the shop opens. In between, he does the dishes and cleaning. Oh, and the closing tasks after 8 p.m. Are you a monster or a devil? Even prisoners get breaks, but this treatment was just too cruel, and my anger knew no bounds. Yet, my brother seemed completely oblivious to why I was so upset. We're letting him live with us, so he's gotta do at least that much. What? Speechless at his words, I was met with nods of agreement from Samantha. That's right. Your father is just not useful. On days when sales are down, we punish him by skipping meals. But it seems like that's still not enough to make him reflect. Oh, and of course, he's skipping meals today too. What? Wait a minute, what did you just say? Useless? Punishment? Skipping meals? That's unbelievable. My father, I met after so long, was physically and mentally worn out. No wonder, considering such brutality. I was so furious, I couldn't even find the words. Well, that's the situation. Please feel free to take him with you. What? Confused by Samantha's words, I tilted my head, and then a duffel bag was abruptly placed in front of me. What's this? This is all of father-in-law's belongings. Wait, all of Dad's stuff is just this? That's right. No way, that's impossible. All of my father's personal belongings from living in this house are just in one duffel bag? Disbelieving, I looked at my brother, who was smirking and nodding. Is it really just this one bag? That's why we're having the deadbeat leave. What? I let out a dumbfounded exclamation at Samantha's words. But my brother also nodded in agreement. Yeah, any more cohabitation is a nuisance. He's useless, so Emily, please take him. What? I was about to burst a blood vessel at the flippant attitude of my brother and his wife. That's when it happened. My daughter's cheerful voice echoed through the room. Wow, Grandpa's coming to live with us? Yay! I didn't expect my daughter, who had been playing with her dad, to be listening to our conversation. With a mix of surprise and confusion, I asked her. Do you want to live with Grandpa? Yes, I want to live with Grandpa. She's just a young girl, likely not fully understanding the deep situation. Yet, her words gave me the encouragement I needed. I looked at my husband, who was holding our daughter. Honey. He must have understood the plea in my eyes. He quietly nodded and said, yes, that's fine. Let's do it. Let's take in your father. Thank you. Our family is by no means wealthy. The noodle shop's business is not exactly flourishing, and my part-time job doesn't bring in much income. Life is definitely going to be more challenging. But I can't help it. I just can't leave my father like this. Dad. I softly called out to him as he lay there. Let's go home. Let's go back to our house together. As I said this, my father opened his eyes slightly and said in a trembling voice, thank you. I'll be relieved to get rid of that deadbeat. Samantha threw those words at us as we were leaving. With her harsh words behind us, we took Dad home. I was filled with frustration. I was angry at losing our beloved family home, but more than that, I felt ashamed for having trusted such a brother. I'm sorry, Dad. I had no idea my brother had become like that. My brother has always been a bit of a slacker, but he used to be better than this. Sure, he had his rebellious phase and clashed with our parents, but I never thought he could be capable of such cruelty. But Dad, with a weak smile, shook his head. Don't worry about it. It's my responsibility for raising him that way. Besides, I pushed myself too hard trying to help my son. My father's kindness brought tears to my eyes. I held back my tears and said, you don't have to work anymore. We can't afford luxuries, but, please, take it easy and rest. With a preschool daughter to care for, I can't increase my part-time hours. But I plan to do more when she starts elementary school. Maybe even aim for a full-time position. There's more I can do for my dad, for our family. I'll do my best. Thank you. Seeing me clench my fists, Dad gave me a gentle smile. After that, we had a period of peaceful days. Dad gradually regained his health with rest and quiet, becoming quite lively again. Now, he even plays with my daughter. She is overjoyed to live with her beloved grandpa. Life is tough, but I have no regrets about welcoming Dad into our home. He tried to contribute his pension to the household expenses, but I refused. It seems his savings are almost gone. Apparently, my brother and his wife had been taking a lot from him as part of their shared living expenses. How outrageous. Their disdainful remarks about Dad being useless probably also meant they saw no use for him once he was penniless. Truly a despicable couple. The peaceful days continued, but gradually, changes began to appear. The changes came to my husband. More specifically, to his noodle shop. Lately, there seemed to be more customers at the shop. My husband mused one day. Really? Isn't that good? Yeah, it is, but... I tilted my head at his hesitant response. Isn't it great if the business is thriving? I've been constantly refining the recipes, so I think the taste has improved, but I feel like there's something more to it. What do you mean? I'm not sure. If the shop owner, my husband, doesn't understand, then how could I, who's not involved in the business? I wonder what it is. The conversation ended there, and I turned to my dad. Oh, Dad. I have a part-time shift early tomorrow. Can you have lunch at the shop? Sure thing. Dad, now fully recovered, still has a hearty appetite. On days when I can't prepare lunch, he eats at my husband's shop. My husband tries to be considerate and make less greasy meals, but it seems Dad really likes the original flavors. Moreover, he insists on paying for his meals. No matter how many times I say no, Dad insists, we shouldn't mix personal and business matters. If you take pride in your work, you should rightfully accept payment. So, my husband has now stopped arguing and accepts the payment. Then, the next day, after putting our daughter to bed, my husband came home and exclaimed as soon as he entered, I've got it. Got what? The reason for the shop's popularity. Oh. What is it? Well, he did that and then this happened, and it led to that. Hey, speak clearly. You too. I served some cold tea to calm us both down, and after gulping it down, he seemed to regain his composure. He sat on the sofa and began to explain what happened at the shop today. In the afternoon today, when it was getting less busy, your father came in. And? As soon as he walked in, people started gathering around him. What? Your father was like a god of fortune. What are you talking about? Dad's just a regular old man. My husband continued. I asked one of the regulars. Go on. It turns out, Dad's been giving life advice that's really catching on. What? I was always busy with prep and cooking, so I didn't notice, but Dad has been responding to customers' life queries. What's that all about? Apparently, the story goes like this. As Dad frequented my husband's shop, he became a familiar face. Turns out, Dad was a former teacher and had a way of speaking that carried weight. Maybe because of that, a certain businessman happened to share his grievances with Dad. While eating our noodles, Dad gave him some advice, and that guy got promoted. What? Then, a freelancer who overheard this sat with Dad and sought advice. Okay. And after that, he got into his dream company and is now a full-time employee working hard. Really? Another female customer discussed her cheating boyfriend with Dad. And? Now, she's supposedly the wife of a rich guy. No way. Actually, she just found a new boyfriend and they ended up getting married. A city legend has been born that if you eat at our restaurant and talk to your father, the life will turn around. What is he even talking about? This is so unbelievable. Skeptically, I gave my husband a doubtful look. Then Dad, who had just finished his bath, appeared, so I decided to ask him. Hey, Dad, did you give anyone advice today? Yes. Maybe because I'm getting older, people find it easy to talk to me? What was it about today? Well, let me think. There was a father troubled by his shut-in son, and a college student who had just learned he's failing. Seriously? It seems he really did give advice. But from what I heard, it sounded like situations without clear solutions. I was half believing, half doubtful that day. But a few days later, my investigation results are in, my husband said, looking serious. All right, I'll listen. Tell me about this urban legend. And? The father of that shut-in son Dad advised the other day. Yeah. He came in crying, saying his son had started going out and even began a part-time job. Really? He followed Dad's advice and had a talk with his son. Huh? And about the university student who was facing repetition. Well, once repetition is decided, there's not much you can do. Maybe he got motivated to try harder? He actually managed to advance. How come? It turns out he dropped a unit from a very strict professor, but he went to the professor's office multiple times for heated discussions. Finally, the professor acknowledged his report, and he was able to advance. That sounds too good to be true. I never went to university, let alone high school, so I don't know much about it, but isn't that how university reports work? Well, whether it's accepted or not really depends on the professor. With all this, Dad's reputation soared. By the way, my husband also said something else. Some people came just for advice without eating anything. That's pretty bold. To hang around in a shop without eating anything, that takes some nerve. But Dad doesn't give significant advice to those kinds of people. As a result, things apparently got even worse for them. So what you're saying is, yeah, Dad is amazing, right? No, that's not what I mean. Huh? You're saying it's not the deliciousness of your cooking that's bringing in the crowd? Are you really going to say that? I bluntly stated the truth, and my husband genuinely looked deflated. But well, if the food wasn't tasty, people would just stick to the cheapest dishes or just have a drink. Everyone's ordering proper meals, so they must be reasonably good. Reasonably. Whatever the reason, my husband's shop started to flourish. Of course, the shop is busy even on days and times when Dad doesn't go there, so it must be genuinely tasty. Good job, honey. Just when everything seemed to be going smoothly, that's when the storm arrived. Yes, it was my brother and his wife. It happened one day when I was off from my part-time job and went to my husband's shop with Dad. Despite it being before opening hours, the doors suddenly swung open, and in burst my brother and his wife, shouting, "Give us back my father." They looked furious. My brother marched up to me, fiercely saying, "I saw it on the internet. Dad's life advice is making your shop super busy, right? Our place, even with Dad's help, had terrible sales, and now it's nearly bankrupt. What's the deal with this disparity? You were the one who dumped all the work on Dad. How could he have time for life advice in such a busy situation?" My brother faltered, caught off guard by my point. Pushing past him, my sister-in-law stepped forward. "We're not going to make him work anymore. All he has to do is sit and give life advice. Look, Dad would prefer to live in his own home, right? We've come to take him back, so let's go." What an audacious claim. They kick him out and now flip their stance so casually, it's astonishing. As if I would hand Dad over to you two devils. Just as I was about to retort, Dad stopped me. He stepped in front of me, signaling me to stop. Then he stood silently before my brother and sister-in-law and said something to them quietly. "I understand the situation with your shop. At this rate, your shop is likely to go under. So, Dad, you should come to our shop and do life advice. Let me make this clear, the people who come to me for advice are here primarily because they want to eat at this restaurant." What? But your shop, a cafe, is no good. Absolutely no good. What? That's not. It is. First of all, did you even learn how to make coffee properly somewhere? I thought I could manage just by looking it up online. Exactly, that's the level of your taste. The cakes and other desserts are terrible, inedible. That's. Serve that kind of stuff and of course your sales will drop and you'll be on the verge of closing. But. My brother was at a loss for words at Dad's harsh critique. He tried to come up with a rebuttal, but it wasn't going well. Don't take your work lightly. What? With such a careless approach, how do you expect any customers to come? People come to the restaurant wanting to eat something delicious. That's the foundation for any conversation. Your cafe is probably so bad that no one comes, right? Well, that's. He hit the nail on the head. My brother was lost for words. If no one comes, there's no life advice to give. Go back and train from scratch. There's no helping you spoiled brats. Left speechless by Dad's words, my brother and sister-in-law could not retort. Dad then shouted again, "Don't take your job lightly." After being overwhelmed by Dad's forcefulness, my brother and his wife left in a huff. So, they ended up leaving without eating anything at my husband's shop. And what happens then? Yes, it's that theory again, if you consult without eating, things get worse. My brother's shop sadly ended up closing. The debt he had incurred for opening the shop had only increased, becoming an unpayable amount. As a parting gesture, Dad had given my brother our family home as a gift before his death, but even selling the old house didn't cover the debt. Now, both of them are living in a rundown apartment, in extreme poverty. It turns out, not just my brother, but his wife also had debts. I'm sure the indebted couple is having tough times. Our family, on the other hand, is enjoying smooth sailing. My husband's shop is thriving and busier than ever, so I quit my part-time job to help out. It's quite challenging, but being able to watch my husband work is a joy. Dad, still energetic, helps out by taking care of our daughter when we are busy. He hardly does any life consulting these days, but customers still come, which means my husband's efforts are recognized. And I'm really happy about it. Today, too, my husband is skillfully shaking the boiled noodles. In that moment, the water sparkles as it flies up, and it's like he's dancing with the goddess of noodles.